Geoff Neal, Hands of Steel, at number 12 in the welterweight division, is fighting number 14th ranked Santiago, the Argentine Dagger Ponzinibbio. This is going to be a very fun matchup between two very skilled fighters. Ponzinibbio, the only reason he's ranked number 14 is because he had such a long layoff after health complications and all that. Got the big win against Miguel Baeza, a very valiant come from behind win. But either way, man, this is a turning point. But before we talk about this, AJ, I need to talk about some of the context that was leading up to this fight. So Geoff Neal, he found himself in the news wire, basically just like a couple weeks ago. You know, it's the 9th. As of we're recording this right now, on December 2nd, an article came out, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of shine real quick because as someone who wagers on fights, as somebody who breaks down these fights, what happens outside of the cage sometimes is kind of just as important as the performances in the cage. So let's talk about it. UFC welterweight Geoff Neal arrested on a DWI and weapons charges in Texas. Now, this is an article written by ESPN staff writer Mark Raimondi, like I said, on December 2nd. And AJ, Geoff Neal, he's a Texas guy. You out there in Texas, you out there in Austin doing your thing, man. Guns is not an uncommon thing for people to have in the state of Texas. It is the great state of Texas for that reason, because an armed society is a polite society. And for that reason, still, Geoff Neal found himself in a little bit of heat. So I'm going to read this out to you, folks. I'm going to single myself out. 1 second. Okay. So UFC welterweight Geoff Neal was arrested Thanksgiving Day on charges of driving while intoxicated and unlawfully carrying a weapon per a Collin County Sheriff's Office document obtained Thursday by ESPN. Neal was taken into custody early on November 25th and was released after making a $2,000 bond at 8:08 p.m. that night, the document stated. Now, Neal's attorney told ESPN that Neal volunteered for a blood test when he was arrested, and his team believes that those results will prove that Neal was not over the blood alcohol legal limit of 0.08%, and there will not be a case file produced against Neal until those results come back. Barnett said the blood results could take anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months to come back. He said he's not sure what the probable cause was to arrest Neal because the arrest report has not yet been released to him. And this is a quote from Neal's attorney saying, "I think it's somewhat premature to report on this at this point. Doing what I do for a living, there's a lot of occasions where you see an arrest, and then based on the evidence that comes back, there's never even a case file." And when I listened, AJ, to Geoff Neal talk about this in the pre-fight presser, he was just kind of saying, I don't really have anything to comment on this, man. They're kind of making this out to be worse than it is. They're making it seem like I had a fucking Mac 10 sitting in my lap driving drunk all recklessly, when in reality, he said, drinking during his camp is not a normal thing that he does. This is an isolated event. He was with his lady or his woman or whatever the case may be doing this thing. Yes, he had his firearm on him. Things just kind of happened. But they didn't use a breathalyzer on him, so that is why he volunteered for a blood test. And you got to be a confident man to say, yeah, fuck it, test my blood, dude, whatever. You know, let's do it. Let's rock. So for Geoff Neal, he's saying he's putting it behind him. This shouldn't be too much of a thing. You know what I mean? And the way that I originally read the article, I was like, this is terrible news. Like, why, you know what I mean? Why would you even, I don't know, why would you even bet on this situation? I don't know, you know what I mean? And I do want to update folks, for those who are watching the graphic, who are watching the program, this is not minus 110 a piece odds. This is actually plus 145 for Geoff Neal, minus 175 for Santiago Ponzinibbio. So apologies for not updating that. But the reason why I think partly those odds are as they are is because of that article that came out. People are probably saying, oh, Geoff Neal, you're getting in some trouble right like a couple weeks before your fight. Like, what's going on, bro? You know, things aren't right in your camp. But then again, the man is ranked higher than Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio has been less active than Geoff Neal, just a little bit. All that aside, AJ, what do you make of that whole entire thing that I just gave for you?
I mean, it's interesting because, yeah, I mean, as a firearm carrier, you know, if you're drinking, you're drunk, obviously don't be driving, don't do that shit. But as well, you can't have your firearm on you, no matter how it is. Interesting. I think it's a lot less of a situation than the media is leading on to be. I think once your name's in those lights, especially, you know, hear weapons charge, DUI, people think like, damn, you're right. He's driving around with a Mac 10, busting off rounds, driving around drunk down to 35. But I think it's a lot less than that. I think it's just something that's kind of being pushed under the rug. And a lot of the time when you volunteer for something, it's because you know you're innocent. You know this is not the heavyweight implications that it has, especially is going for something that could be quite devastating to someone's career. I'm not taking too much weight on this one. I think it's something that's going to be handled out of court, you know, handled, you know, through his lawyer. It'll just kind of be brushed off. Everyone's going to forget about this one. We've seen a lot worse happen with these UFC fighters, and thankfully it wasn't something too bad going forward, man. Yeah,
absolutely. And then once again, context matters, man. If you're in California, right, and you're like, you know, there's a cultural difference between Texas and California, and Californians are kind of in a way like scared of guns. Texans embrace gun culture. So it's like, Exactly, man. You hear somebody have a gun, you shouldn't immediately think, "Oh my God, what were they doing? Why do they have a gun?" It's like, because they're in Texas and you can legally. What is it? Constitutional carry in Texas, where you can just have a gun. You don't need nothing. You just carry the gun. It is what it is. That's why. Like I said, great state of Texas, because they embrace the freedom over there. But all that aside, man, I don't think that this should have a heavy implication in the context of this matchup. I think this should be a fight where both dudes are going in 100% or as close to 100% as possible, and they're going to bang it out and see who's the better fighter on Saturday night. So let's talk about it, my man. Geoff Neal's coming off of 2 losses, man. One to Neil Magny and one to Wonderboy Thompson. The fight against Neil Magny was a little demoralizing because Neil Magny just touched him up for 3 full rounds. It's kind of annoying when a dude is just popping you in your face, poking that stick in your face all day. But for Santiago Ponzinibbio, though he got knocked out against Li Jingliang 2 fights ago in the first round, kind of a stunner, nobody really saw it coming, he bounced back against Miguel Baeza. Valiant effort. I already talked about it, man. Great unanimous decision win for the Argentine Dagger. Now, when these two match up, both of these dudes like to get the job done the same way. They like to use their hands. Ponzinibbio's a little more well-rounded, but he likes to box. Neal likes to box. And I'm going to say this to open this up, AJ. I think Ponzinibbio is a better striker than Geoff Neal. I think Geoff Neal is a better boxer than Ponzinibbio. And I think that's what's going to make this matchup interesting, is because Ponzinibbio has a 73-inch reach. Neal has a 75-inch reach. So Ponzinibbio is going to have to get in on the inside, close a little bit of distance. But then again, Ponzinibbio is just a little bit taller than Neal. So it's like you taller, shorter reach versus shorter, longer reach. Who's going to be on the outside? Who's going to lead the dance? And the key here, AJ, for me, Geoff Neal's head movement is massively underrated. Dude has slick footwork and head movement. Ponzinibbio's a little more of the stand and trade, absorb damage type. How do you see this fight playing out, man? Who leads the dance? This is also Southpaw versus Orthodox. Neal being the Southpaw, Ponzinibbio being the Orthodox fighter. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, Derek, that's the exact question I had for you too, because that was probably the hardest thing for me to think of.
Yeah.
Is because in my mind, Santiago Ponzinibbio, he's going to be on that front foot, leading forward, orthodox style, getting things done, moving forward. But Geoff Neal has this crazy way of not being there with his head moving when the punches start flying, man. Ponzinibbio, though, he has these amazing low kicks that can kind of mitigate that little bit of movement that Geoff Neal has. The problem is, once Geoff Neal's kind of put in that corner, he has these crazy power, man. The hands of steel is a very apt nickname for this guy, because he can drop you real quick with that left bomb of a left hand, and it just comes out just like a piston, literally no tail on it, fires out real nicely. I do think Ponzinibbio will be leading the dance, at least at the beginning. I just see Geoff Neal, excuse me, I keep messing up. I see Geoff Neal going as more of that counter striker, letting the boxing speak for itself, or he lets Ponzinibbio kind of tire himself out. Do you see it the same way, or are you thinking that Geoff Neal's going to be the one leading the dance going forward on this one, Derek?
It's tough because when you watch Geoff Neal fight, man, what does he do? Like in the Neil Magny fight, he literally just says, like, I'm going to walk you into the corner and there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm just going to smash your face. But the problem was Neil Magny had so many teep kicks, so many jabs, so many everything coming, constant movement. So for Ponzinibbio, who is very much that pressure fighter, he's the definition of a pressure fighter. Is going to be interesting to see, can he fight off of his back foot as well as he can off the front foot? I say no, and I think Geoff Neal is going to be pushing the pace and the pressure on him. He's a behemoth of a man, and when it comes down to the grappling as well, I think Geoff Neal is a lot stronger than people give him credit for, because when Neil Magny, who's a great wrestler, great grappler in himself, was trying to get Neal down, Neal would just stand up and just, just like Derek Lewis style, just stand up, push him, reverse position, and then be like, all right, we're back on our feet, we're getting it done. So every single time Neil Magny got Geoff Neal down, he was never able to keep him there. I don't see this being any type of grappling matchup, but I'm talking more clinch exchanges and stuff like that. I think Geoff Neal's power is going to be the differential too, because Ponzinibbio, though he has 15 knockouts, like this dude has crazy power in his hands. Geoff Neal is just different, right? Like you said, aptly named nickname, Hands of Steel, for a reason. So when it comes down to it, my man, both of these dudes throw almost at the same clip, about 4.5 significant strikes, 48% for Neal, 40% for Ponzinibbio, 87% takedowns for Neal, 60% takedown defense for Ponzinibbio. Like I said, I see this being a kickboxing match, but when we're talking about notable wins, this is where it comes down to. For Geoff Neal, he really only has 2 of them in his recent fights, man, and that is Bilal Muhammad, a decision win, and Nico Price knocked him out in round 2. For Ponzinibbio, you have Neil Magny, where he knocked him out in the 4th round. You remember that fight? That was crazy. Miguel Baeza, that unanimous decision win, which maybe shouldn't be a notable win, but to me, that stood out. But he also knocked out Gunnar Nelson in the 1st round, man, and that's a legend to do it. So with all of that being said, my man, Who do you give an edge to, man? Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, who are you giving the edge to? And let's talk about implications. What does a win mean for either one of these fighters? What do you think?
Well, I like the way you phrase it because I do think Santiago Ponzinibbio is the better all-around striker. He
Yeah.
has the leg kicks, he has the movement, he kind of has a little bit different way about going about things. Where Geoff Neal, his hands are solid. His hands, like that boxing is very, very on point, very what's the word I'm looking for? Like precise. He hits you hard. It's everything you want in a boxer. It's just he doesn't have those kicks, those teep kicks, those calf kicks to keep you going. I'm giving a little bit of an edge to Ponzinibbio as far as in the striking, just because of that, just because of the leg kicks, because he's able to get it done with all the limbs. But as far as a dog in the fight, man, I'm going Geoff Neal. I think Geoff Neal has a little bit more of a mental advantage going forward. And don't get me wrong, Ponzinibbio is an absolute dog as well. We saw in that Baeza fight the way he was able to turn things around and keep that pressure going the entire time. We're going to have two pressure fighters going literally head to head against each other the entire time. Going to make for a very interesting matchup. And as far as you said, over under.
Well, no, before the over and under, just tell me
Oh,
what
implications.
what does a win mean for Ponzinibbio? What does a win mean for Geoff Neal? I mean, both of these dudes are in the tail end of the top 15, but a big win, a decisive win, could definitely skyrocket them into that top 10. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a big win, especially a performance bonus win for both of these guys, we're going to be seeing top 10 in their names very, very soon, especially, or if not a top 10 already, a top 10 opponent against them going forward. And it's actually but the same for both, whether it's Ponzinibbio or Geoff Neal. I think both of them have that kind of jump up going forward. It'll be interesting. I think I'm giving a little bit more advantage on this one to Geoff Neal just because he has a little bit of a ride going for him.
Yeah.
Ponzinibbio is kind of a little bit on the back foot, but we'll see. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be interesting because, like I said, Neal is coming off of 2 losses, so this is almost a must-win for him. And for Ponzinibbio, he only has 1 loss in his last 5, and he was on a 7-fight win streak before that loss. So for him, I think it's just kind of smooth sailing for Ponzinibbio, so I'm going opposite. I think for Ponzinibbio, a big win, that fast-tracks him real quick back into that top 10. Look, he doesn't deserve number 14. He deserves to be a higher number than that. And for Geoff Neal, I think that kind of like reaffirms, okay, yeah, you're that guy. You know what I mean? You're not this dude who's just on a massive losing streak. You're not that dude who we thought you were. Because, dude, listen, man, before the Wonderboy Thompson fight, people were saying Geoff Neal could fight for a championship. So we'll see what happens. This is going to be a very fun fight. And then now let's talk about winner or loser, over and under. The over and under on this one, my man, is 2.5 rounds, plus 145 for the over, minus 175 for the under. So where are you going, over and under?
I'm going with the over on this one, man. I'm going with the dog. I'm going, and I'm actually going Geoff Neal by decision. I think it's going to be a crazy fight, back and forth, 2 pressure dudes going at it. It's going to be hard to get either one of these out of there with a KO, even though it definitely can happen. But I'm going Geoff Neal by decision. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to rock the same way. I'm going Geoff Neal by decision, and I think that he's going to be able to hurt Ponzinibbio. I think both fighters are going to be able to hurt each other. I just don't see a knockout happening because Neal has only been knocked out once in his career, and Ponzinibbio has been knocked out 3 times, but it doesn't have a real record of being knocked out. I mean, he barely has any losses, man. 4 losses in 32 fights, so I just think that the man's chin held up against Baeza, who knows he's known for cracking dudes, man. Like, he sleeps people. So I'm going Geoff Neal, hands of steel, bounce back win, past all the nonsense outside of the cage. I think it'll be a really fun fight. But this is one of those fights where you'd hate to see anybody lose, you know what I mean? And then on top of it, Geoff Neal fighting out of Fortis MMA, Ponzinibbio fighting out of American Top Team. This is a battle of 2 super camps right here. So